Let's go ahead and create the joints for the other repulsor. So in the last clip, we created the joints that we need for this front repulsor. Let's go ahead and create the joints for this mid repulsor. So it's really the exact same process. What we're going to do is select this joint right here. What we're going to do is select this piece of geometry right here. We can press Control or Command 1 to isolate it. And if we want to, we can press F on our keyboard to frame in or zoom in on this object. And then with it selected, let's go to Create Joints, holding V. We'll go ahead and snap right to that vertex. We can begin to translate it. Go to the attribute editor. We'll adjust the joint orient until it's roughly in line with the geometry. Might translate it out just a little bit, and right about there should work fine. So we'll press Control and 1 to show everything again. We'll select this piece of geometry, and just like before, we'll isolate it by pressing Control 1. We'll go to Create Joints, hold X, snap to the center of the grid, and then we'll parent these two objects together. So we'll first select the geometry, shift select the joint, go to Constrain, Parent. Make sure we have Maintain Offset turned off. Go to Add, that's going to align that joint to the position of the geometry. And then what we can do is select the joint, go to Windows, Outliner, open up that joint, and we'll just go ahead and delete that constraint because we don't need it anymore. And now let's select this joint and adjust the joint orientation. So in the Attribute Editor, hold Control or Command and middle mouse click until we get this roughly into position here. And something like this should work for us. Might adjust it just a little bit there on the Y-axis. Alright, that looks good. Let's go ahead and press Control and 1. And now we need to create the joints for this hose piece. So with that piece selected, we'll go ahead and press Control 1 to isolate it. We'll go to Create Joints, select it, and we'll turn on the Snap to Curves. We'll snap right to this front piece here. And we might adjust the joint orient just a little bit, kind of get it more in line with the geometry. Just something like that. And we'll go ahead and create a joint for this center section. So we'll go to Create Joints. And let's go ahead and place the joint right here, sort of at the center of this cable piece. And let's actually go ahead and turn off this curve snapping, just so that we can kind of translate it more into position where we want. So right around here should work. And we might go ahead and translate it down a little bit. Translate it over. Might adjust this joint orient just a little bit. All right, something like that should work. And then finally, let's create this last joint. So we'll go to Create Joints. We'll turn on the Snap to Curves. We'll snap right to the end piece. We can turn that off. And then again, we'll just begin translating this roughly where we want it. And then we can adjust the joint orient. All right. And that looks good. Now let's go ahead and go through the process just like we did before by parenting these joints together. So we'll go ahead and with this joint selected, we'll shift select the middle joint, press P to parent. Then we'll select the middle joint, shift select the base joint, press P to parent. So you can see we have this joint chain. And then what we'll do now is press Control and 1. Go ahead and show everything again. And then we'll parent this joint to this sort of pivot joint here. Press P to parent. And then finally, we'll parent to this base joint. And there we go. So now we have the joint chain established for the actual mid repulsor. So now that we have the joint created for this mid section, let's go through the process now of naming these joints that we just created. Because we haven't named them yet, and you always want to make sure you're going back and giving all your joints proper names. So let's go ahead and begin with this joint right here. And we can go to our channel box just so that we can easily edit this name. So this very first joint, we'll go ahead and highlight the name. Let's actually name this R for right, since this is on the right side of our drone, and we'll do underscore. And this is actually sort of the base of our repulsor. So we'll type in repulsor base, and then we'll do underscore JNT for joint. All right, and let's actually go ahead and copy this name now. I'll paste it for this joint right here. So Control and V to paste, and we'll just change this to repulsor pivot, because this joint will kind of act as the main pivot area for this repulsor. All right, so with that named, and let's go ahead and highlight the name here, and we'll just start with R for right, since this is the right side of the drone. We'll do underscore front, because this is actually the front repulsor on the drone. and then we'll do another underscore, and then we'll do repulsor base underscore JNT. And let's actually copy this name. We'll paste it right here. And this is actually going to be the repulsor pivot. So we'll go ahead and rename that area because this joint is going to act as the main pivot point for the repulsor. All right, and now let's go ahead and select this joint right here, and we'll go ahead and paste that name again. And let's actually name this front cable underscore base. This is sort of the base cable joint here. And let's actually copy this name. I'll paste it right here. We'll change this from base to mid. And then finally, we'll select this joint right here, and we'll paste that. And we'll change this from front cable base to front cable end. That's the last joint for the actual cable piece of geometry there. And with that, let's go ahead and name the joints for the middle repulsor. So we'll actually go ahead and just copy the name for our repulsor base joint. So we'll copy that. And then all you need to do on this side is just rename this from front to mid, since this is the mid repulsor. All right. And then we can go ahead and copy this name right here for the pivot. Copy that, paste it here. We'll change this from front to mid. And I'll actually go ahead and pause the video here as I rename all of these joints. Basically, all I'm doing is just copying the joint from the front repulsor, and I'm just renaming the front to mid. So I'll go ahead and just pause the video here. All right, so I've gone through and copied the name over for the mid repulsor. So you can see I've just gone in here and renamed this to right mid cable and joint and so on. So you can go ahead and just do that for the rest of the joints here. And now that we've created the joints for the front two repulsors, what I'm going to go ahead and do is just let you finish the back repulsor here. And it's the exact same process that we just went through for these two repulsors. So you're creating the exact same joint setup for this back section. The only difference is going to be the naming convention. So instead of the mid, it will just be back. So that's something to keep in mind when you're placing these joints. But if you do need a refresher, you can always go back to the same clips here and rewatch them if you need to kind of get a refresher when you're creating the joints for this back section. So I'll go ahead and let you finish off the back section there. And then we'll just continue on in the next clip and go through the mirroring process to mirror our joints across to the drone's left side.